What's going on, everybody? It's Joel here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Skyhill Legacy Grips. Skyhill is an equipment company that's fairly new to the United States CrossFit market. I first saw them at the games last year at the WIT booth, but I didn't really get to take a look at any of their products. This year at Wodapalooza, they invited me over to their booth so that I can meet with, I think, some of their founders, and they gave me a breakdown of their equipment and even sent me packing with their grips. So these are the legacy grips from Skyhill. There's also the competition grips, which I did not get. But since Wodapalooza, I've been using these grips as my main grips. I use them throughout the entire open, and I do my daily training in these grips. I really like them. They're not the perfect grips, and I think grips are typically a subjective kind of thing. There's a lot of preference that goes into what you would want or what people prefer in grips, but for me, these tend to check all the boxes. But before we talk about the actual performance and everything, let's actually just go over the construction of the grip. So the gripping material is a synthetic fabric. It's what they're calling their AdTech fabric. I don't really know what that means, but it is kind of like a nylon coated grip. And I think it's decently comfortable, but it's really grippy. And I'll sacrifice some of the comfort on this grip for the amount of grip that you get from it. It works on coated bars, uncoated bars, dirty bars, clean bars. It works with chalk, without chalk. And the only thing that I haven't really tested it for is moisture, which we're gonna do in a little bit, and I'll kind of do a little live test. I just don't really sweat all that much. Plus it's been pretty cold in California, so that also adds to me not really sweating all that much. But anyways, this material is also nice because it doesn't really hold its shape. So you can throw it in your bag. I usually just fold them up, throw them in my bag, and then when I want to use them, they just come back to normal. Another key feature of the Skyhill grips is the way that they designed their wristband. It has a Y-shaped design to it, and what that does is it distributes pressure evenly throughout your palm. So with a lot of these newer grips that have a gripping surface, you get a lot of stress on your thumb joint because of how much torque is going into your hand from doing the gymnastics movement. With this style of design, it is a just much more even amount of pressure throughout your hand. And on top of that, there's also a neoprene wristband that provides a really good amount of comfort to your wrist, so you don't even have to use sweatbands when you have these grips on. The construction seems pretty solid. They're double stitched at the neoprene and gripping material area, and then the wristband itself is made out of a nylon material. It's got Velcro hook and loop, and I really like the beefy O-ring that they have here. That does not seem like it's ever gonna fail on you. And then also, another thing that I like with the wristband is that once you put it through, you can easily just loosen it, and then this little rubber tab will just kind of catch on to the D-ring. So you can loosen these, turn them around, and pretty easily adjust them on the fly. You can also just kind of flip them around, but the problem about that is that sometimes the neoprene will just like flip over and bunch up. So I do find myself having to kind of loosen them a little bit and then flip them around. So these do have an anatomical fit. The right side is specific to the right and the left side is specific to the left. If you ever get confused, there's a little left and right indicator in the inside of the neoprene, and also there's a little place that you can write your name so no one's jacking your grips. I got these in a size large. That's what they recommended to me. There's a little curvature for your thumb, and then the grip is slanted out so that it accommodates your fingers as well. There's a little bit extra material at the base of the palm on the outside, so that if you wanted to use these for false grip, you could also do that as well. But it's not as thick of an area for that false grip as some of the other grips on the market. So one quick little nitpick that I have about the material is that the edges are kind of like unfinished, and there's threads popping out of them pretty much throughout both of the grips. And while I don't think that they're gonna rip, it just kind of doesn't look all that nice, and the impression of quality is not that high because of that. All right, so now that construction is out of the way, we can finally talk about what you are probably here for, and that's the performance of the Skyhill Legacy grips. Overall, I think that these are some of the absolute best and stickiest grips that you can get out there, but there are some things that I don't quite like about them. But I think just in general, these are probably my favorite grips at the moment. So talking about the positives first, and then I'll go over the negatives. So like I said before, these are some of the stickiest, grippiest grips that you could possibly get right now. They're okay in comfort, but what they kind of lack in comfort, they'll just make up for in grip. So they're best suited for bar work, pull-ups, toes to bar, chest to bar, bar muscle ups, whatever it is. If it's a clean bar, a dirty bar, you're using chalk, you don't want to use chalk, these things are excellent. They stick like nothing else. And the way that they advise you to use them is that you want to target this little kind of like triangle here, flip the grip over there, get the maximal amount of tension that you can on that bar, and then you'll be stuck to that bar for however many reps that you want to do. So I personally don't really use chalk with my gymnastics grips, and that's because a lot of the newer style grips that have some kind of gripping surface don't actually do well with chalk. That actually makes them worse. With the Skyhill grips, it doesn't really affect the grip at all. So what I had noticed is that when putting chalk on these grips, the chalk just kind of falls off. There's nothing for it to stick on, so it doesn't really help you. If you're somebody that likes to load up with chalk, you might not like that about these grips, but you really don't need that chalk anyways because of how much grip these have just in the first place. So one thing that I did notice about this material too is that it can cause you to blister. I've gotten a couple blisters, and I'm not so sure that's because of the actual like grip itself, or maybe just because I'm just doing more reps and having extended time on the bar. Whatever it is, these wouldn't be my first choice for a grip if you wanted comfort, or if you were somebody that ripped a lot. So like I said, the grip on these is excellent without chalk. Doesn't really matter what kind of bar you have. But the one thing that I had not tested it for is for moisture. So I've got some Tupperware here, and I've got my grip, and I'm gonna get these nice and wet, and we're gonna try to see how the grip is after they're a little wet. Okay, so I should get my hands wet too. The grip actually doesn't soak any kind of moisture. The water just kind of falls right off of it. That's pretty good if you're somebody that sweats a lot. What I'm noticing right now is that, yeah, it's kind of slick where the grip meets my hand, but let's see how it handles the bar. Okay, so grip is still really good, but like I said, the moisture just kind of comes off the grip, so that's not a big deal. But what I did notice is that on the inside of the grip, it does become a little bit more slick, but honestly, that doesn't really affect the grip or the stability of holding the bar because of how much lockdown you have just from the exterior gripping surface. So I wouldn't say that moisture would be all that bad or detrimental to these grips. If you're somebody that sweats a ton, you might still want to wear sweatbands, but I'm gonna say that these are gonna be a pass when it comes to moisture. So there's a lot of great things about these grips, but nothing is perfect. The things that I dislike about these grips is, first off, I did not like them for ring muscle ups, and that is not because they didn't provide good grip. It's because it's kind of hard to get these over into a good area when you're jumping into the rings. So I use these grips on 21.3, and when I got to the muscle ups on the end, I could not get a grip on the rings for the life of me. I had to jump into the rings, and I just couldn't get a secure grip. I ended up having to throw them off, wasting 2 or 3 attempts on my ring muscle ups, and then I finally got one with just bare hands. And another thing that I didn't really care too much for with these grips is that they're a little bit long and they kind of flop all over the place. So when you're doing like dumbbell snatches and you're alternating hands, you really have to make sure that you flip these to the outside. And if you're doing double unders, you kind of have to like shift them downwards too, because you might actually hit your rope with the excess grip. So they are a little bit long, they're a little bit cumbersome. If you're somebody that's a little bit more competitive, I think you're probably gonna be better off in the competition grips because they have a little button that you're gonna flip down and snap into place. And if I had those grips, I would probably use those ones over the Legacy grips just so that I could get them out of the way pretty easily on the fly. But all in all, I really like these grips. I think the grip on them is excellent. They're $60 for the pair. I don't foresee these failing on you. They feel pretty well built. If anything, the only failure point might be the Velcro or the stitching, but so far so good. I've been using these pretty heavily over the last 2 months now, and they've held up beautifully. And as of right now, I'm gonna say that these are my favorite grips. And to be fair, there's really not a single grip that I do like to use on the ring. So overall, I think you can't really go wrong with the Skyhill grips. They provide excellent grip. The performance is stellar on these. The comfort is pretty good. And I think the value of these is pretty good, coming in at 60 bucks. They seem pretty durable, and I think that they'll last you for years to come. And they also gave me a coupon to share with you guys, which is AMRAP, AMRAP. I'll leave a link in the description so that you guys can shop Skyhill. They have grips, they have belts, they have knee sleeves, they have pretty much everything to outfit a typical CrossFitter. If you guys have any questions about these grips, feel free to leave them in the comment section. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching, guys.